Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural show of Everything in Moderation debates. So,
Heyo.
what we're going to do here is we're just going to have a debate. Anthony will be our moderator for most of these. Um, and we could all challenge each other, like within the podcast. So, like people from the international one could challenge people from the regular one. And overall, just have like really good conversation, fruitful conversation, like we're about to give you one right now. So let's just get into that right away. So Anthony, you can introduce the topic and we'll hash it out.
Okay, thank you, Christian. All right, so today's topic will be capitalism versus socialism. And we have Christian will be on the capitalism side, and we have Danny is on the socialism side, and each of them will be debating on which one is why their side is better. So the rules are simple. Each Christian and Danny both have we'll say the opening remarks. I have the questions on me, and each person will have 2 minutes to discuss their statement of what I asked. If the if Christian or Danny discusses their point in the question, then they can get a 30-second rebuttal. And pretty much that's what I got to it. So with that being said, I'll let Christian have his first opening remarks. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. So I am here championing capitalism. Obviously, like I'm a big fan of like Milton Friedman, Thomas L. And overall, like I just think it's a good system. The definition is in which most means of production are privately owned and production is guided and income is distributed largely through the operation of markets. Some benefits that it brings are, one second. Did I lose my benefits thing? Okay. It encourages innovation. Firms have an incentives to be more efficient. Consumers can choose what businesses survive by where they choose to take their money. Economic freedom leads to political freedom, and the more the state owns the means of production, the easier it is for the state to become totalitarian. I just think that it gives more freedom to the individual, especially with purchasing decisions. You're not married to purchasing just one form of product. You could choose to buy different things if you feel that you have the capital that you need, and if you just want it. That's where I like it. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Hey guys, I'm championing socialism today. Hope the mustache matches the outfit. But so what is socialism? Let's take a look at a definition from the dictionary. So it's the collective ownership of society's means of production. You can think of it as non-human resources that produce things with economic value. Let's talk about farmland, natural resources, equipment, buildings, infrastructure, roads, all of it. The workers or the public own them, people. So if this is not what's happening in the society, you cannot call it socialism, okay, even if it's not, de facto. So today, I want to talk about the broader term that a lot of political science people talk about when they say socialism, which is a system which can achieve social equality. Okay. So where does socialism draw from? We could see it in the beginnings of its stages in ancient Buddhism, where people were taught, to love each other and to not really take a whole lot of, mark out of anything with value. So like, maybe a ruby, whatever, that doesn't matter. Everything is just the same, people are the same, people are equal. That was the primary form of Buddhism. You can also see some forms of socialist ideas in Plato's Republic coming out, because what they wanted to do in Plato's Republic is they wanted to find ways to improve society through people. That's what the first definition of the Republic. So time to get out of history. Don't need to talk about that. But the main forms of socialism that I'm going to be talking about today, and are most relevant today, are anarcho-syndicalism, which is
10
a
seconds.
form of communism, and then I'm also going to be talking about libertarian socialism. So let's discuss.
Okay, nice. So my first question is for Christian. Um, So obviously, the United States is under a capitalism format, but as you can see that the format under the U.S. is kind of fading away due to a lot of people in Congress and a lot of people in elected posts, believe in like what's called democratic socialism. Why is it that you see that? Do you think that capitalism is a lost cause, or is socialism the new norm in America?
So I'm actually gonna like kind of debate your question a little bit too. I don't think that it's necessarily the people in Congress that are like, you know, pushing the socialism. I think that the capitalism that we have isn't even veering towards socialism. We just have a type of what you would call crony capitalism or vulture capitalism. And just to explain to what the viewers that is, that's a monopoly power and influence of organized crime in business, plus hedge funds and private equity investors that buy firms but concentrate on personal profit rather than the long-term well-being of the firm. So, example, the United States. Um, Obviously, like if you kind of, I mean, we talk about lobbying on this podcast all the time, especially in the other show. Um, you can't have so like okay so in certain communist countries in the past, the government owned the means of production, right? In this case, the major corporations like Amazon and stuff own the means of production, and they're basically monopolizing everything here. um and it's hard to tackle them down. Big tech, big pharma. The alternatives, in a free market, this isn't a free market because those alternatives would still be there, and they would be viable. And especially when we talk about like healthcare or something as well, that you see it in that as well, because we're kind of forced to use certain services where we can't freely choose what we want.
Nice, nice. So this question is for Danny. Um, so as you can see, like a lot of members of Congress are pushing for free college, Medicare for all, and especially touching on free college. I mean, it's not actually free college. Actually, it's taxpayer funded free college. Why why do you think? Actually, no, why would I say that? But why is it that so many of these people are pushing for free college if it's actually going to be us that's going to be paying for it?
That's a good question that brings up a lot of things to that question. I think there's a huge push in America nowadays for any kind of social democracy aspects. What I mean by that is we could take a look at Canada right next door, and they have free Medicare, and they have also, I don't think they have completely free college, but they have sort of payment plans. Germany is a good example as well, where they have free college, free Medicare. So how do they do it? Taxpayers, right? So we could sit here and say, how are we going to pay for this? But we also have to realize there's a lot of things in our government that we pay for through our taxes that we don't even know about, right? So a lot of people don't talk about how much we pay in military spending. So let's look at that compared to, let's say, free college, for example. So I would say we had a third of the budget would be 30. No, let's take an Afghan war, for example. This is a good one because we could just take the absolute metric from that war. That's $7 trillion. That's what that costed us. I'm almost positive. If I'm not correct, then it's like 7 billion. But we could go into the cost of that war as a 10-year span, and that war would fund college. Free college itself isn't really that much of an ask per year. I believe it's only about $70 billion to pay for free college in America. But basically what I'm saying is that a lot of people want to try these things because it's working in lesser economies than America. So we really want to just kind of up our game and kind of join the global stage of a lot of countries that are adopting this social democratic approach.
Seconds. Okay, nice.
I would actually like to make
This
a slight comment if I
okay,
could.
yeah, you can rebuttal.
So, this is where I think that a term called conscious capitalism would come in. Instead of the government paying for college, you could have the major firms and huge corporations pay for it. As you know, if they're going to do anything in this society, it would probably have to be that. And I think that that would be fair because considering how they could afford that capital and take it and fund it, obviously, I'm sure the government would need to do a little bit of their own money, but we're operating on some crazy debt right now. So it would be nice if our firms could help out.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Christian. So this question is again for Danny. Senator Bernie Sanders has praised the Castro regime, especially our new freshman senator Raphael Warnock, who has spoken at a church in Cuba. No, Cuba, sorry. Fidel Castro spoke at his church, and then we had also and Senator Bernie Sanders, actually honeymooned in Russia, and said that the bread lines they had were actually good things. Now, do you think that the actions that are taken by these senators are justified? And if so, why?
Okay, that kind of definitely caught me off guard. Um, so when talking about Bernie Sanders, I just want to say that he is a career politician, and one of the most remarkable things about the guy is he has never really flip flopped on a lot of his issues. He just stays stable. Now, to Russian hotel visits and remarks on Cuba, I can't say anything. I can't speak his mind, but what I can say is what he is, and what Bernie Sanders is something you have not seen yet in any country, and he is a democratic socialist. That is different from a social democracy. The difference is that people in that form own the means of production. However, there is, or at least owns a decent portion of the means of production. However, there is free market. Now, when you look at a social democracy, he, I would say differs from that because social democracy has pure free market ideals. Nobody owns any means of production. Now, where I'm coming to at this point is Bernie Sanders is a guy that wants to help people out. And if you look at anything that he talks about or anything that he does, he's kind of a dick, to be completely honest. He's not too nice, but the things that he does for lower income people in America is I would say something you haven't seen since FDR.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Christian. So a lot of people say about capitalism is that it causes the poor to get poorer and the rich to get richer. Many supporters of capitalism just say it's a myth. Do you think that's a myth? And if not, why do you think that?
So to answer the first part of the question, I think that it isn't a system where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But I do think what we have in the US now is the case. I mean, as I mentioned before, we're in a sort of like crony capitalism, corporatism kind of thing. So, I mean, you saw that this with like Wall Street bets where like retail investors went, they did exactly what the hedge funds do and yet were punished for it. So I do think that this is where this system and like a conscious capitalism where the people on top help out the people on the bottom. But the kind of society that the United States is we're very individualistic in pursuing our own self-interests. And I still think that that's a problem with if we had socialism here or whatever, because all that matters is the people that are at the top of the food chain, at the top of our government, don't necessarily have our best interests at heart. And I think that at some point, it doesn't even matter what kind of political ideology you implement. Is if those people are still there, are these people that are trying to go for their own pursuit, self-pursuit, it's never going to go well.
If I could butt in real quick.
Sure.
So, you keep on saying conscious capitalism. And that definitely is a good term for, capitalism like we have in America, since we have social welfare.
Mhm.
But I would definitely emphasize that these ideals are socialist in particular. So, for example, regulation is socialist. You're regulating the market. Okay. If we talk about, not talking about the actual definition, I'm talking about the ideals, like socialism ideals. You know, any kind of safety net for people is a socialist ideal. You got your social security, that is socialism technically.
Mhm.
So
Time.
a lot of these, all right, that's good.
Okay. So this question is for both of you. So in the way that our country is heading, if I kind of similar to the question that or actual four, but in the way that our country is heading, do you see it trending more towards capitalism or socialism? That just and in your answer, try to defend your side. We'll start with Christian.
Boy. I can see, I mean, I actually really can't see us abandoning capitalism or the capitalism that we have right now anytime soon. I think it's all noise. I think it's all noise from the politicians at the top. You have your Bernie, you have your AOC, Ilhan Omar, um, the so-called the Democratic Socialists, um, and those are only three people. The majority right now are, neoliberal politicians. And so it always kind of made me laugh when someone would say, called the Democrats the far left, because that's just not what they are. Um, the it's the Democrats and the Republicans both benefit in the same way, but from different companies. And that's what I'm getting at with the whole corporatism thing. It's not it's the corporations are sort of, well, they're lobbying basically. That's where it's going. So as long as I mean, money is king and money is power. So I can't see it would need to be like a Marxist revolution type thing to see a socialism come here.
Okay, Danny, we'll go to you.
Okay, so guess what? I have quite the opposite view, and I'll tell you why. So, remarkably, as we've seen this past election, nothing has really gone on, has it? We haven't changed from capitalism and to really adopt a lot of socialist ideals. But if you look at state and local elections this year, you will find the amount of like officials that got elected that hold more socialist ideals than, you know, a Democrat, like a liberal Democrat, or you could say any kind of Republican. The amount of officials that got elected this year is crazy. And there is going to be a huge movement within the Democratic Party to push for more social changes. And specifically, the reason why this is going to be is because all these officials that got elected and the huge amount of wealth inequality that is going to be a primary factor in the next 10 years of where we're going to take this country. Because a lot of people are fed up. And, a lot of people say, change does not happen from the top down. It happens from the bottom up, and people will get tired. And you can see this happening in the state and local elections already. People are voting and paying attention to politics a little bit more than they normally would. And I'm going to say, maybe not 10, maybe not 20, but I will say in the next 50 years, we will have a completely different America than today.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yeah. So, next question is also again for both of you. So this question is relevant to the Black Lives Matter protest that happened over the summer. So, and obviously, you see on both the left and the right, obviously, think capitalism and socialism, you see two different things. So, from what people have seen, obviously, a lot of people have seen that either it's a social justice movement, which is definitely a big part of it, and or B, people have labeled the Black Lives Matter movement as a far left fringe movement or a Marxist organization. Obviously, I mean, you've seen, I've assumed both of you have seen what happened in a major American cities over the summer. But based on what you've seen, do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement is doing more harm to America, based like on a socialist or capitalist standpoint, or is it doing more good for America, and why? And we'll start with Danny this time.
All right. Well, first, let's talk about Black Lives Matter being Marxist. So let's talk about the definition of Marxism. So Marxism is actually a type of socialism that is centered around class struggle, revolution, and then the Marxist historical theory of materialism, which is a lot like Buddhism. All right. So it advocates for revolution in a society where the means of production is taken by force rather than reform, like in social democracies. And this means the means of production would then be controlled by a proletarian state, aka in this case would be either America or the Black Lives Matter movement. So when we look at Black Lives Matter, you could see some resemblance between any kind of like socialist ideology and Black Lives Matter, but they are definitely not Marxist, because I would say if they were, you would see Capitol riots and they'd be trying to actually overthrow the government. But they really have just been protesting. You've seen them burning down buildings with the means of production in them, or the fruit of production. But, I wouldn't say that they are categorically a Marxist organization at all.
Okay, Christian, we'll go to you.
So to quote my good friend Eric Hund, the left could have learned from the people who invaded the Capitol in terms of how to protest. I definitely agree with him. It's the thing is with them, at least they burnt down businesses, shattered windows and stuff. That doesn't help their movement, and I feel empathy for the people that are genuinely protesting for change. Because all it takes is a couple bad apples, and it gives the whole movement a different look, and the media is only going to focus on that part. And if they invaded the Capitol, I would have honestly been like, all right, just go ahead. I think this is you fight for what you want. You could achieve it there. You're not going to achieve it by destroying businesses. There is some validity to that argument of where they say, well, like if they destroy the businesses, people kind of take them more seriously. Yes and no. Yes, it does probably get it in their head a little more, but also it alienates a lot of people from the movement because it's just really extreme lengths to go. Whereas when the far right protesters invaded the Capitol, you had politicians that were like scared, and I'd rather have that than the common person. If that, kind of, no one deserves to be attacked, but the Black Panthers in the 1960s, I believe, they stormed the Capitol armed as well. I just think it's more of a powerful statement. And in terms of socialism or capitalism, there's a lot of focus on like Black Lives Matter being Marxist.
Time.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. So,
so now we're gonna move on into closing statements. Each Christian and Danny is gonna have 2 minutes to say their closing statements on what we should all take out of this, and we'll start with Christian.
Yeah, so I think that capitalism is the most beneficial means to be a platform for a government to go off of, a government and market. I think probably the biggest thing when you look at capitalism is just efficiency. You look at the USPS and then you look at UPS and FedEx, especially during these times and during COVID. USPS is operating on a loss right now, loss of profits, whereas UPS and FedEx are making more money than ever right now. I think that when you deal with countries that are in a smaller sector, and Danny actually mentioned this, and I agree with him actually. He said that when you're going to see more politicians at the grassroots level of government that are socialist, I think that that is okay because I think it's easier to manage. You could, a lot of like what socialists tend to focus on is fixing that problem for the whole country. And Danny was very appropriately described it as a bottom up thing. So if the socialism is applied at a lower level, and then as you get higher, it becomes sort of less and less, I feel that that would be a good hybrid of the two, because capitalism at a federal level would work probably better, provided that the government prevents monopolies. That is our 14th Amendment, I believe. And I think that that would be an ideal society. Capitalism is not perfect, but it allows the majority of people to have economic freedom and dictate how their life will go.
Thumbs up. You can finish your statement though.
No, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay, good. So Danny, you can say your final thoughts.
All right. So the two things I want you to get out of me today are this. Okay. Socialism in its purest form has worked. So there is an anarcho syndicalism. It's basically complete anarchist communism that doesn't have a state. And that country, and they work through trade unions. They don't have money at all. That country has succeeded. It was primarily a country between the 1930s and 1950s. And it was right before World War II. And so basically Catalonia was able to provide quality healthcare to 2.5 million people. They also saw growth in wealth and production and an absence of poverty. More schools were built, all around objectively better public services were provided. And they also had a highly effective military, which constantly they used to protect themselves against the Spanish nationalist forces during the Spanish Civil War. So that argument in general is just moot because that is an example of one. But what I really want to draw out of this today is that the best countries in the world today, ranked 1 through 10, I guarantee you the first 5 have, or at least are, social democracies, or they have social ideals. And the reason that is because people, in order to get a quality of life, they need to be assured that they have some form of welfare and security. They want to be able to get injured, go to the hospital, and come right back and not have to pay a whole bunch of bills. And I would say, that is the thing of socialism that people really like. And that's why people want to be more socialist in America, at least.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Well, that concludes our first debate and everything in moderation history. Thank you, Christian and Danny, for your thoughts. And I'll see you on the next debate.
I definitely just wanted to just add some things. You saw how civil that was. I encourage everyone to engage in political debates, not just for pushing your own thoughts and what you think works, to just learn more, because especially I think my realization came where, I think that I could honestly say that I blindly kind of supported capitalism up until a couple of weeks ago. And it was with that Wall Street bets thing. It opened my eyes to the corporatism in this country. I still believe in capitalism in the long run, but again, what I mentioned in the debate is that what we have is not. But that's the thing. So Danny, I obviously learned some things from him today. Social democracy and democratic socialism, 2 different things. It all makes my head hurt, man.
Those are hard ones in particular. Social democracy and democratic socialism, there's literally one thing that separates them, and it's the way they structure their market.
And it's just funny because when you go to the left, there's a bunch of different theories, a bunch of different stuff. Whereas on the right, it's capitalism, and then it kind of veers off into corporatism and some other stuff I said, like state capitalism.
Well, there is libertarianism. You can't forget about that.
Yeah.
And that is
No.
a 100% sacred right of Republicans. And that is an awesome right to be completely, true.
And yeah, I mean, we're not really looking to see if like we had a winner here. We're just trying to educate you guys. It's probably one of the more benefits of debate is that you could take away something from each person. Not something you could do from the presidential debates because it's more or less just them shitting on each other. We talked about policies. We talked about applications. I mean, admittedly, this is my first debate as well. I don't know about you, Danny. First debate that's recorded, so I'm sure nerves kind of get a little bit of the better of us as well.
I did better than Chris Wallace, right?
Yeah, you did better than Chris Wallace, I said. But yeah, I mean, just we're gonna keep doing this. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be very educational, and if anything else, it'll bring all the members of our podcast together as well. So, just wanted to thank Danny for the time and being a good co-debater. And
oh yeah, man, you too. I'm glad not to be yelling at anybody.
I'm not in the mood, dude. Not after this past year. Oh my god. Social media is crazy. Everyone's crazy these days. But and Anthony, thank you for being the host. I look forward to seeing you. You asked some hard-hitting questions, that's for sure. You surprised us a little bit. I like the little curveballs. I wasn't expecting to talk about Black Lives Matter here.
Yeah, me either. Or Bernie's vacation. But yeah. That's actually a very good point. That caught me off guard completely. So that was awesome.
We're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to do some extra research. We have to think about like what questions would Anthony not ask, and then try to answer those questions, and then he asks them. All right. I think it's a good time to end it. Thank you, boys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next month. This will be a monthly show. So, see ya.
See you later,
guys.